the Daily Nation front page story is, and Angel actually has just walked into studio. So we are halfway there, people. Senior high, schools in race against time. The country's preparedness to implement senior secondary school in 2.5 years dominated debate at the Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association annual conference in Mombasa, with major concerns being raised about inadequate infrastructure and teacher training to handle the first cohort of the CBC learners, as well as funding and the students' choice of pathways. More on that on pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. This year marks the end of the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams. I see a health alert. Sweetener used in soft drinks, chewing gum, quote, causes cancer. A common artificial sweetener used in the manufacture of some soft drinks, candy and chewing gum is likely to be labeled a carcinogen next month, sources have told Reuters. And also on the front page of the Daily Nation, Raila moves to tighten grip on Nyanza base, cancels Ruto inroads. We'll take a look at that with my panelists this morning as well. Health crisis looms as nurses, clinical workers issue strike notice. And disturbing reports now, Osinde's body lay in mortuary as family made frantic search. The badly decomposed body of former Treasury employee Fred Tom Mokaya Osinde lay at the Migori Referral Hospital mortuary, unidentified for a week as his family frantically searched for him. And how Kenyans are beating the tough times with a sharp rise in cost of living, leaving many unable to afford the lifestyles that they were used to. They're resorting to cutting down on consumption of basic necessities, shop around for cheaper alternatives, or avoid them altogether. So that is the front page of the Daily Nation. Okay, let's take a look now at the front page of the Taifa Leo. And this is the headline, Ushuru Kunyonga Mnyonge. And it tells us that as of tomorrow, Wakenya wenye mapato ya chini ambao tayari wamelemewa na mzigo wa gharama ya maisha wataathirika hata zaidi. Mapendekezo kadhaa ya kuzalisha mapato yaliyomo kwenye sheria ya fedha ya mwaka wa 2023 yatakapoanza kutekelezwa. And under that, I see they've also highlighted mtafutaji kazi atemwa sababu ya umri wa juu. That is the nomination to the SRC by the Public Service Commission. And madereva watishia kususia kazi kitaifa. Wanalalamikia agizo la serikali kupitia NTSA warudi shule kwa mafunzo. And I see at the very top of Taifa Leo here, they highlight Tom Osinde's story. Wafanyikazi wawili wa Osinde ndani yadaiwa mtumishi mmoja alikiri kwa polisi kuhusika katika mauaji ya Tom Osinde. So that is the front page of the Taifa Leo. Let's take a look at the front page now of the Business Daily. Here we go. And this is the headline. Ruto Gachagua MPs set for 14% pay rise in SRC review. SRC hands President 1.65 billion a month from July 2024. Cabinet secretaries' salaries up 14% to 1 million. State officers, and this report is by Kefa Mweruri. State officers, including the President, the Deputy President, Cabinet Secretaries and MPs, are set for a 14% pay rise on average over the next 2 years starting next month in a review proposed by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to cushion them against the rising cost of living. If approved, the officials will enjoy significant relief from the impact of the persistently high inflation, which has eroded personal incomes amid rising cost of basic consumer products. Okay, I've put a star on that. We will come back to that with my panelists. But also on the front page of the Business Daily, De La Rue spends 2.7 billion shillings to lay off staff, exit Kenya. On the ticker, let's take a look at that. Middle class drop premium brands as inflation stings. Kenya's upper middle and high income households are increasingly dropping premium brands across various products from their shopping baskets as a way of coping with the rising cost of living. And Let's see, NSE investors fight for Williamson Kapchorwa shares on higher dividends. And Kenya benchmarks Egypt's 11% in Eurobond buyback. It reads, the Treasury hopes to buy back Eurobond coupons at 11% or below to refinance the maturing 280 billion shilling sovereign debt maturing in June next year. More details on page 16 of the Business Daily. And the number of those who would be affected by De La Rue's exit from Kenya are 300 employees. All right, let's take a look now at the front page of The Standard. And this is it. Judges demand 1.2 billion shillings. Sorry, let me scroll up. Judges demand 1.2 billion shillings from Ruto for Uhuru's, quote, sins. Former President Kenyatta's failure to appoint judges nominated by the Judicial Service Commission in August of 2019 has come to haunt Kenyans. There are 22 judges now want President William Ruto's administration to compensate them for being kept in the cold for over 20 months by the Jubilee regime, and the orders sought by the judges are listed there below. Let us see a declaration that failure by the president to appoint them for 22 months was a violation of the Constitution, a declaration that the president's actions were in violation of rights to inherent dignity, rights to fair administrative action, a finding that the state, through the actions of the president, to cast aspersions without proof was against the judge's right to dignity, an order for compensation for state's abuse of power against the judges, Attorney General to issue a public apology to the judges, costs of the petition, interest at court's rate from the date of judgment until payment in full. So these are the orders the 22 sought. Also on the front page of The Standard at the very top here we see tracing last hours of slain former Treasury official. Raila setback as IEBC panel says we are working. So that's the other story I'm going to put a pin in. We're going to take a look at with my panelists this morning. So that's the front page of The Standard. Let's take a look at the front page of The Star. And this is it. Death threats force ex-IEBC commissioner to flee country. An image there of Irene Masit. I'm curious what my panelists will make of that. Targeted former polls agency official Masit ran away in the night in her pajamas. So we'll take a look at a bit more detail, and they tell us to flip to pages 4 and 5. Busia holds requiem mass for 7 children killed in crash. And we have the images of the children as well here. And mourners view portraits of pupils from Ebenezer Academy in Busia who perished in a road accident on the Eldoret-Webuye Highway on June the 24th. Below, Raymond Okoth, Primrose Akoth, Amira Tasha, Faith Evans Acheng, Faith Acheng, Yvette Atieno, Adrian Craig, and Wendy Barasa. May they rest in peace. And as you heard earlier when I was going through the top stories, police are investigating whether Tom Fred Osinde was drugged before he was suffocated in his car. There is a likelihood he was drugged before he was killed by the suspects. That is one of the theories we are pursuing, a senior official aware of the probe said. And not free anymore. Why Nairobians should brace for higher water bills. Nairobi residents are staring at higher water bills after the state announced plans to charge the county government for supplies. Water and Sanitation CS Alice Wahome said government is working on a legislation to compel the county to pay for the commodity. So this is the front page of the Star. Let's take a look at the People Daily, and I'll invite my panelists to weigh in on a couple of the stories. People Daily tells us get ready for high fuel cost. Following the enactment into law of the Finance Act 2023, we will on Friday, June 30th, announce the reviewed maximum petroleum pump prices. That is what was tweeted yesterday by EPRA. And tax measures bite. Energy regulator will today unveil steeper prices as 16% VAT on petrol products takes effect starting from midnight. And SRC seeks fatter pay. So this is a headline story on the Business Daily as well for senior officials. That is President Ruto, Rigathi Gachagua, Moses Wetangula, Amason Kingi, Justin Muturi, and Martha Koome. Salaries team led by Lynn Mengich invites public to give views on new perks for officers. I saw that in the paper yesterday, them inviting memoranda, but I'll ask my panelists to weigh in on the issue of cost of living. When you look at the front page of the Daily Nation with the expected rise in VAT on fuel already, how are Kenyans beating the tough times? When I looked at, was it the ticker of the Business Daily? Yes, middle class drop premium brands as inflation stings. So let me invite my panelists to tell us how they're coping, if they have this problem at all, of the cost of living. And let me just reintroduce them. We have George Yogo, in-studio governance consultant, Angel Mbudia, national chair, Jubilee Youth League, and Solomon Kuria, political analyst. I expect Advice Mundalo any minute now, but I will start with you, George. Have your buying, what do I call it? Have you changed what you buy, how you buy, on account of the rise in cost of living?
I have changed almost everything, including the means of transportation. We were just sharing with Angel shortly before you asked the question, because I'm looking at how much it would cost to drive from my place to town, coming to the office daily and back, and that cost has almost tripled. If you talk about increased fuel costs by today, it means I would definitely have to look for an alternative, and that's what we're discussing. And I'm like, do you have to get a smaller car, or do you now just stop thinking about driving and use matatus, or probably go by Uber, if that would still be an affordable option? Almost everything has gone up, because when you talk about rise in fuel costs, it affects almost every aspect of human existence.
Okay.
Yes.
Like now, Angel, I'm curious, when you go shopping in the supermarket, are you one of these Kenyans that are highlighted on the front page of the Business Daily? This middle class and upper middle and high income households are increasingly dropping premium brands across various products from their shopping baskets as a way of coping with the rising cost of living. Do you fall in this basket?
I think everyone is privy to that basket, because when you look at eggs, there's no brand for eggs, but that one is biting all of us. One egg is the same cost as a tray anywhere in the country. And when you look at things like refreshments, let's say deodorant is something that I don't know what we can replace that with, because it's going for double the price as it was last year. And I'm thinking, am I going to buy deodorant, sanitary towels, or is it eggs, or is it going to be unga or rice? So it's quite interesting. Even before you leave the house, you are thinking how much is going into that basket, even before you go to fend for yourself. So it's really going to be a tough time for us Kenyans. We need to buckle up, seriously. Yeah.
All right, I would suggest maybe rubbing lemon under your arms, but the lemon itself is expensive. Solomon, has your purchasing power diminished?
Of course. If the cost of living has gone up, it's affecting everybody across the divide. So it has happened to me. But fortunately for me, I would say, I have been one of those Kenyans who like consuming especially products from the shamba. I have an advantage of coming from Nyandarua. It's not very far from here. So today, one thing you'll find in my house is a sack of potatoes. You'll find it. I paid 200 shillings. I just call my mother, pack it for me, put it in the bus. I pick it. I give the conductor 200 shillings. I tell that to my friends, and they tell me, no, that's quite dirty. How do I live in the same kitchen with a bag of potatoes? But Nation, your newspaper, did, I think, an article a few days ago and explained how Kenyans are adapting to this. Someone is calling in the village, buying raw milk in bulk, putting into the refrigerator, other than going for the processed milk at the supermarket. Those are the adaptive skills that we need. And fortunately for me, and I will go with Mo Ibrahims from Sudan and what he said a few years ago, the next batch of millionaires will be farmers. The middle class, and sorry to say most of us, see farming as a preserve for the villagers and all that. But now life has taught us that we need it so much. I've found myself in a situation whereby I've seen young people, so many of them, going back to the shambas. They are doing some work in Nairobi, but someone is leasing some 5 acres just here at about 40 kilometers from here in Kinangop or maybe in Narok, and they're doing some farming. Today, you cannot survive without a side hustle. You cannot rely on one job today, and you have to thank Kenyans. They know how to adapt, and like all of them have been able to adapt and withdraw some unnecessary costs. Stop dating expensive girls. Like I've always told fellow young men, you know, like you have seen the middle class drop premium brands as inflation does what? Stings. Eh? Yes. So, Nani, my friend here, if you take this lady out, you will see the package. So you also drop the package for what you do in terms of dating and all that. So it is life. And that's how it is.
To realize,
yes, George.
but to realize exactly what my brother is saying means that the government cannot hit its target. So definitely that's
why? Because of the increased cost of wigs and weaves and nail
no. He doesn't buy from the shops locally. He only spent 200 shillings. So which means the revenue that the government was intending to get from him, they aren't getting. So if all of us adopt such kind of measures, it means then definitely Mr. Ruto would not get what he expects to get from Kenyans with the increased taxation.
Yeah, we cannot tax
ourselves
to
yes.
Interesting that. And sorry, I was looking for the SRC advert on calling for submission of memoranda. I think it was in yesterday's paper, but I'll find it. Regardless, I'm curious what you guys make of this particular headline, as others are tightening their belts and bringing warus from Nyandarua. Ruto Gachagua MP set for 14% pay rise in SRC review. Kefa Mwiruri says this will cushion them from inflation. Your thoughts on the subject? It was also captured. Which paper was it also captured on? Was it the Standard?
Business Daily.
Business. Oh, no, this is the Business Daily. But I also saw it on a front page, another front page somewhere. Not Business Daily. Must be not the Star. Is it the Standard? Okay, I'll find it. But regardless, your thoughts on the subject. This vis-a-vis the headline on the Taifa Leo, Ushuru, Kunyonga, Mnyonge. Your thoughts, George?
I think this is the greatest height of hypocrisy. Because the members of parliament, the president, because we're talking of Mr. Ruto here, and the deputy, apparently the entire system is run by a taxation. Now, if you look at the last review on the pay package of the Kenyan employers, what percentage of increment they have had in the last few years, comparatively to what the members of parliament and the executive are demanding, then you realize we are trying to fleece already dry breasts of a cow. These guys are overburdened and the pay is very minimal. So how then would you demand taxation, heavy taxation, multiple taxations, not just heavy, but multiple taxations from an economy that is already under a lot of weight and burden, and then now you transfer that money to increase the salaries of a few individuals? To me, it doesn't make sense.
All right.
It absolutely does not make sense.
All right, so we need to take a break, but when we come back, we'll hear from Angel, and we'll also get Solomon's thoughts on the subject. I will have found that SRC advertisement and read it out loud for us. Perhaps during the break, I can convince Solomon to share some of those warus with me.